The world stopped for a moment. Across social media, news feeds froze, and millions of people stared at their screens in disbelief. On an otherwise ordinary morning, single headline spread through China like wildfire. Actor Menglong found at scene of devastation. Within minutes, hashtags exploded. Fans flooded comment sections with shock, confusion, and tears. How could this happen? Where had he been? What exactly had been found? No one knew the full truth, only that something irreversible had just occurred. The news broke just after dawn. These confirmed that Menglong had been discovered at a remote location on the outskirts of Hangzhou, a place described as eerily silent, untouched by the world. The details that followed were fragmented: a few photos, a cryptic statement, and a wave of collective heartbreak that swept through the entertainment industry and beyond. For years, Menglong had been more than just an actor. To his fans, he was a voice of calm, a symbol of quiet strength, a man whose eyes carried both gentleness and melancholy. He was known for his versatility, his emotional depth, and the rare sincerity that seemed to radiate from his presence on screen. But behind that soft smile, few had ever seen the storm. Now, as reporters raced to confirm what had happened, an entire nation found itself confronting a question it didn't want to ask. What really happened to Menglong? Witnesses say the discovery was unlike anything they had seen before. One anonymous source described the scene as peaceful, yet unbearable, like time itself had stopped. The first responders, unable to hide their shock, spoke in hushed tones. There was no sound, one officer recalled. Just the wind and his shadow against the light. It was a moment that no one expected. That felt too surreal to belong to real life. For fans who had followed his journey since his breakout role years ago, this wasn't just another piece of celebrity news. It was the unraveling of a dream. The loss of a voice that had quietly comforted so many. As the story unfolded, old videos of Menglong began resurfacing online. Clips of him smiling shyly during interviews. Moments from fan meetings where he bowed deeply after every performance. Behind-the-scenes footage showing him laughing with the crew suddenly took on a haunting, nostalgic glow. In one of his final interviews, recorded months before his disappearance from the public eye, he was asked about happiness. Answer, now replayed millions of times. Feels almost prophetic. Happiness, he said softly. It's quiet. It doesn't make noise. Sometimes it's just being able to breathe, even when the world forgets you exist. Those words now echo through the silence he left behind. People close to him describe the last few years as lonely, but full of meaning. He had withdrawn from the spotlight, spending long periods away from the industry. Some believe he was working on a new project. Others thought he needed rest. No one imagined that his story would lead here, to a scene so devastating it would shake an entire nation. As morning turned into afternoon, the shock deepened. Outside his agency's headquarters, fans gathered silently with flowers and candles, their faces pale in the dim light of hundreds of flickering flames. No one spoke. No one needed to. All across China, his name trended at number 1. Television anchors spoke his name with trembling voices. Radio stations played his songs, gentle, nostalgic tunes that suddenly carried the weight of farewell. And through it all, a single question lingered. Now, what could have driven such a beloved figure, known for his composure and warmth, up in such a hauntingly quiet place? A place that would soon become a symbol of loss and reflection for millions? The full story, as investigators would soon reveal, was more complicated, and more human, than anyone could have imagined. But before the facts, or the reports and explanations, there was only that morning. That unbearable stillness. Collective gasp of a nation that could not believe what it was hearing. And somewhere in the echo of that silence, disbelief and sorrow, the truth about Menglong began to take shape. Just as a tragedy, but as a portrait of a man who had carried the weight of the world quietly, until his silence became too heavy to bear. He never slept, but that night, something about the air in Beijing felt strange. The streets glimmered under the dim yellow of the streetlights, and the news tickers along skyscrapers blinked a single headline that would soon consume an entire nation. Actor Menglong missing, search underway. At first, no one believed it. It sounded like another rumor, a story spun by tabloids desperate for attention. But when his agency confirmed that no one had heard from him for over 24 hours, Disbelief turned into panic. In homes across China, fans stared at their screens, scrolling through endless feeds of speculation. Where could he have gone? Why now? He had been quiet for months, taking a break from filming to rest and reflect. Everyone thought he was simply traveling. But behind those calm explanations lay something no one had seen, a slow, quiet unraveling. The last time anyone saw him was outside a small cafe near the West Lake. A fan had taken a photo, sunglasses, cap in hand, smiling faintly. There was no sign of worry, no farewell hidden in his expression. Just the same gentle warmth that had made him a household name. Yet that smile would soon become the most haunting image in the country. For 2 days, there was nothing. No calls. No messages. His phone went straight to voicemail. Police began tracing his last known movements, while friends and coworkers combed through their memories for any clue they might have missed. Some recalled his quiet tone lately, tendency to stare out the window during rehearsals, bit of writing in a small notebook he carried everywhere. Others said he had seemed lighter, as if he'd made peace with something only he understood. By the third day, news channels were broadcasting live from his last filming location. Fans gathered outside holding candles, pouring prayers into the wind. The internet fractured into two halves, those who feared the worst and those who refused to give up hope. Tags like "Come back you Menglong" trended for hours. Through the noise, one question echoed louder than all the rest: "Where are you, you Menglong?" The answer arrived when everyone least expected it. Just as dawn broke over Hangzhou, a blurry video appeared online, grainy, shaky, recorded from a delivery driver's dashcam. A lone figure walking along an empty bridge in the early morning mist. The shape was unmistakable. Him. Within minutes, the clip went viral. Reporters swarmed the area, and soon after, official confirmation came: Yu Menglong had been found, alive. He was weak, disoriented, but conscious. Rescuers reached him. He said only one thing: "I just needed to breathe." Those 5 words swept across China like a storm. Relief mixed with confusion. And the internet exploded again. Why had he vanished? What happened during those missing days? Later, when he recovered, Menglong agreed to speak. The interview aired a week later, unannounced, quietly uploaded to a streaming site. And to polished production, no dramatic music, glamorous lighting. Just him, sitting by a window, sunlight filtering through the curtains. His voice soft but steady. "Wasn't running away," he began. "I was looking for silence." Plain that the past few years had been overwhelming. His filming schedules, expectations, constant scrutiny, every smile dissected, every pause turned into rumor. "You start to forget what's real," he said. "Even your own heartbeat feels like a performance." One evening, he decided to disappear for a while. He left his phone behind, boarded a train with no destination, and spent days wandering through quiet towns. Wasn't planned. "I just kept walking until the noise stopped." He described sleeping under the stars, listening to the sound of wind through rice fields, watching strangers live their lives with simple contentment. "I realized I'd forgotten how to just exist," he said. "When I'm hungry, sleep when I'm tired, smile when I feel it." The bridge where he was found wasn't a place of despair, it was where he finally stopped running. When the sun rose that morning, "I felt ready to come back." His honesty stunned the nation. The mystery that had terrified millions turned into something entirely different, a conversation about pressure, mental health, and the human side of fame. Psychologists appeared on talk shows, urging compassion instead of judgment. Fans began posting stories of their own struggles, using the hashtag #IBreathe2. The days that followed, Yu Menglong's agency released a statement asking for privacy. He withdrew again. This time not in hiding, but in healing. He spent months away from cameras, volunteering quietly at art schools, helping children learn music and painting. "They reminded me what joy looks like," he later said. "It's messy and loud and honest." Finally returned to acting. It was for a small independent film, no budget, no fame. A story about finding peace after losing yourself. Actor recalled that Yu Menglong arrived on set every morning before everyone else, sitting alone with a notebook. On the first day, he wrote one sentence on the first page: "The silence taught me how to listen again." The film premiered without fanfare. Called it gentle, heartbreaking, real. Viewers said they could see something new in his eyes, not pain, but understanding. He no longer tried to be perfect, he just tried to be present. Months later, he appeared once more in a live interview. When asked what the word home meant to him now, he smiled. Home, he said, is the place where you don't have to pretend to be okay. That line became immortal overnight. It was printed on posters, quoted in classrooms, shared by fans across continents. The truth behind it was simpler than any headline. Learned that the world could be both beautiful and cruel. That applause could echo louder than your own heartbeat. And that sometimes you have to step away to find your way back. The disappearance that once terrified a nation had become a metaphor. A mirror for everyone who'd ever felt lost in the noise. And you, Menglong, who had once been the mystery, became the voice of quiet resilience. A year later, on the anniversary of his return, fans gathered again on that same bridge. There were no reporters this time. No flashing lights, only hundreds of people standing in silence, watching the sunrise. A banner hung from the railing, "Thank you for coming back." As the sun climbed higher, one of his songs played softly from a speaker, the same song he'd written during his time away. The lyrics were simple: I was gone, but not lost. I was quiet, but not gone. The sky kept my secret, and now I'm home. That morning, the wind carried the sound across the water. Some cried. Some smiled. Somewhere in the distance, a man who had once disappeared was watching quietly, grateful, alive. He no longer feared silence. He understood it. Because silence, he had learned. Not the end of a story. It's the moment before a new one begins. In the end, it wasn't fame that defined Yu Menglong's story. It was the silence he dared to enter. The courage he took to come back. He showed a nation that stepping away is not weakness. It is the quiet act of saving yourself when the noise becomes too loud. His disappearance was never about escape. It was about rediscovery. And when he returned, he carried something rarer than applause. Gentleness that could only be born from pain. A peace that no spotlight could ever outshine. To everyone who followed his journey, worried, and whispered his name into the night, thank you. Your hope filled the silence. Faith turned fear into light. May his story remind you that even in your darkest hours, you are never truly gone. Sometimes, the world has to lose sight of you just long enough for you to find yourself again. Rest. Come back when you're ready. The world will still be here, waiting to listen. The end.